Hello students. In the last chapter, that is motion, we studied about the objects in motion along a straight line. We also learned terms related to it like velocity, acceleration, distance traveled by the objects. We also know now that motion can be uniform or it can be non-uniform. What are we going to do in this chapter? We are going to understand, we are going to try to learn the causes of motion. The chapter's name is Force and Laws of Motion. This is ninth chapter in your textbook and we are going to study introductory part of the lesson. So let us start. So as I said earlier, in the last chapter that was motion, we studied about motion of the objects along straight line. We also dealt with the various terms like velocity, acceleration, distance traveled by the body. We now know that motion can be uniform or non-uniform. Students, in our everyday life, we observe that some efforts is required to put stationary objects into motion or to stop a moving object. Without that, an object which is at rest cannot move, or object which is moving cannot be made to rest without applying some efforts. We also know that force have different effects, like it can make a object which is in rest position to move, while it can also stop the object which is moving. It can change the shape and size of the object, and such other effects we can observe on applying forces. To put it in more precise manner, force is an external effort in the form of pushing, pulling, stretching, compressing, etc., which may move a body at rest or stop a moving body or change the speed of a body or change the direction of the moving body or change the size and shape of the body. So force has this many effects on the body. Students, force can be of two types: balanced force and unbalanced force. If the resultant of all the forces acting on a body is zero, then the force is called as balanced force. For example, in this case, when there were only two cars of the same mass, they were balanced. But when another car falls on one side, there is imbalance. Thus, what is unbalanced force? If the resultant of all the forces acting on body is not zero, then the forces are called unbalanced force. So this is exactly opposite to balanced force. In balanced force, the resultant of all force acting on body is zero, whereas in unbalanced force it is not zero. Let us take one example. As an example, if we consider a block placed on a table and we try to pull it from either side with an equal force, that is very important. If we try to pull the block from either side, from both the sides with equal forces, will it move? No, it won't. Such forces are called as balanced forces. Let us see unbalanced force. So, if the force on one of the two sides is greater than the other, then block will move on the side of greater force. For example, if in this direction there is greater force, then this block will move in this direction. Why? Because greater force is in this direction. So such forces are called as unbalanced forces. I hope you understood difference between balanced and unbalanced force. Let us move on to the next topic. You can see on the screen right now there is a boy who is rolling the pumpkin by applying force with his hand. What will happen if he stops applying force? Obviously, pumpkin will stop rolling. This is what Newton's first law states. According to Newton's first law, a body continues to be in state of rest or in uniform motion along a straight line unless some external unbalanced force is applied on a body to change that state. So, if there is a car who is at rest position, I repeat, if there is a car which is at rest position and then some another vehicle comes and dashes the car, what will happen? Car will move little forward. So there will be a change in state of rest of that car. This is what Newton's first law states. Let us see first law once again. This law, as we know, was proposed by Newton, and there were three laws proposed by him, out of which first law states that an object remains in state of rest or of uniform motion in a straight line unless compelled to change that state by an applied force. So object will continue to move, or it will remain in rest, continue to remain at rest unless we apply force on it. To put it in more simple words, we can also say that every object try to oppose their change in state of motion. So that was what we learned today. We tried to understand what are the effects of forces, which was part of earlier lesson also. We also tried to define force. We learned what is balanced force, what is unbalanced force, and we also studied first law of motion. Let us see what we can do at home. Few questions. First question, distinguish between balanced and unbalanced force with examples. You have to differentiate between them. And second question is state first law of motion. So these are the two questions that you have to try it at home. So that was today's assignment. I hope you understood today's topics. And if you have any doubt, I know you would ask by putting comments in the comment box. So see you in next session. Until then, take care. Bye bye.